Hello, everyone, and welcome to the FM show. We're back, and on this episode, we look at starting a new save and how to choose the right one for you. Welcome to the FM show. I'm Tony Jameson, and joining me, as always, is RDF Tactics and producer Steve. And before we get into the show, you might have noticed that we're in a new home and we've got a new name. You can now find us at The FM Show Pod. That's The FM Show Pod on all social media accounts. That's Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Obviously, we've got YouTube, we've got Discord, and we're going to have a Patreon. So keep your eyes peeled for that as well. And of course, you need to sort of repoint your podcast feed to The FM Show, wherever you get your podcasts. So why not give us a follow? Admin tasks done. Aaron, Steve, how are we?
Oh, I'm doing absolutely wonderful. Thank you for asking.
Oh, mate, it's good to be back, isn't it?
Oh, it's wonderful. I cannot wait to kick this one off. I cannot wait.
And for those who are watching on YouTube, Aaron's smile is beaming right now. Like, this is a man who's happy to be back. This little bit of time off, he's hated it.
People may see it as work, and time off work, but honestly, it's brought so much fun to my life. I'm just happy it's back. I'm happy it's back.
Oh, no, mate. Honestly, it's great to be back. And I tell you who else we're great to have back in the seat. Producer Steve, live on camera and in audio form. Steve, how are you, pal?
I'm well, boys. I'm well. Obviously, I couldn't lose spending the wonderful weeks the Wednesdays together that we have and had in the past. And so, when we're talking about doing something new, I couldn't turn the opportunity down, could I? So here we are. Yes. Yes, enjoyed the spring, enjoyed the summer, and just happy to be here with you again.
I'd say it's brilliant to get the band back together again. To be honest, it feels like we've had pre-season, and now we're about to embark on a brand new adventure. Look at that, Steve. That's almost a link.
Almost, yeah.
Almost. It's as good as you're going to get in episode one, surely.
That's true. You're doing well, Tony. Well done. Well done. Now, the thing is about this too is that people will hear the sort of bits of encouragement that I give Tony through the show.
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
Like a warm
we'll be able to see all of the all the cuts as well. Going, oh, he started on this angle and he's cut to there, but never mind.
We're really exposing the wiring, aren't we? Now in this new era. Yeah.
I think the audience need to know the real us now. No, we're talking about a new save. Now, the reason we're talking about a new save is because we're kind of at the halfway cycle, I suppose, really in FM 23's life. Football season in real world has finished. Maybe people have been playing the game for 6 months. Maybe people are just getting the game right now and figuring they want to start something new. So we figured we might as well talk about how we set up that new save, because that's what we're doing now. We're setting our new home. We're setting our new philosophy, our new ethos, and hopefully we can bring a little bit of advice, a little bit of inspiration to our listeners. Now, first person I think we should probably come to for inspiration and advice, Aaron, RDF Tactics. You're the man. First of all, you bring happiness. I only bring sadness, so you bring the happy vibes first, right? How do you select your new saves? Because I'm going to be honest, right? You're the man of 1,000 saves, aren't you?
Yeah.
You've started a new save during this conversation right now.
So this is actually a good topic for me, I feel, anyway, because I am one that's known to start a new save literally basically every time I stream. But currently, we're in season 20. How we've got there? Yeah, you two raising your eyebrows. I don't know.
20.
I often open up my save. I'm like, how have we got here? But yeah, what tends to happen is something will happen in real life, and then that will kind of influence me. So this current save actually started with Everton because they got almost got relegated. So I thought, how bad can it actually be that they've just escaped relegation? Let me just try it out. Let me see what's happening at Everton on on Football Manager, and yeah, it's a shocker. So I thought, Football Manager, you got Calvert-Lewin and all of that good stuff. So it's going to be okay. It's going to be a breeze first season. My God, yeah, we found some trouble. So that's how I actually started the save. And then as it got on, we won the Premier League pretty early. So it got to a point where it was like, okay, let's think of a save that we can do where we can actually leave Everton and we can kind of kick on. And because we all had fun at Everton, so why not try and do what we've done at Everton, but in different nations? And this is how we brought up this idea of trying to win the top tier in the top 7 leagues with teams that haven't won the Premier League or won the Portuguese league top tier. And that's kind of how we started. And it's been amazing. It's actually been amazing. We're currently at this Graafschap, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, in the Netherlands. And that is where we are. So we won the Champions League at Rennes and we're somehow here.
So that's to say, sorry, Aaron, that's like 20 seasons old rather than being at the same club for 20 years.
Yeah, so it's What we tend to do is we try and win the Premier League. The European trophy or whatever trophy is a bonus, but we'll try and win the Premier League. And instead of instantly leaving, we'll try and make the club rich. And so when we leave, they can still challenge. So at the moment, Everton are still in the top 4. They've won European trophies, same as Rennes as well. So that is the aim of the save. So we don't just win it and run away. I did do that at Bochum because Bundesliga, I mean, I've got grey hairs because of the Bundesliga. So once we won the title, I instantly ran. But the aim is also just to stay there and making sure the team can continue to compete whilst we're gone.
So it's not just the sort of like slightly ego boosting, like, without RDF, that club was nobody.
We try and do that, yeah. But it makes it like, obviously seeing Everton still qualify, you get a little smile because it still feels like it's your work.
Now this actually, I think, as a point, illustrates why I think the three of us worked so well in respects of like, you guys have just gone for 20 seasons, multiple clubs, challenges, the top end of the complicated way to play this game.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about like, how do I choose a different club to Fiorentina, for example? I've been playing my Fiorentina save. I'm on my 8th season now, I think. I just like it. The food's nice over there. The whole ambiance. I can walk around and see beautiful Renaissance buildings, etc. I've built the stadium up. I've won 4 Scudetti, challenging Juve, AC, and the two Internazionali as well. So the idea of jet setting like that, never mind in like one save and multiple saves like that, gives me hives. I sort of want a bit of stability in an FM save. So I maybe other listeners and viewers will agree that it takes a lot for me to, and also I'll probably, I did Everton in FM 21, for example, as well, because Everton's my dad's club. I'm sort of, very partial to Everton, if not kind of also a fan of them as well. Done Arsenal on both 21, 22, 23, but I choose very few clubs. Literally since as a kid, I choose very few clubs for a save. So this will be really helpful to hear, and if I'm honest, be convinced to do other saves.
Yeah, you've just mentioned something there, Steve, which I was going to probably talk about a bit later on, but I'm going to mention it now. Primarily because of the shirt you're wearing. So the people who are watching on YouTube will know that Steve's wearing an Arsenal shirt. Okay, now Steve and Aaron, both big Arsenal fans. And you were saying there, you've done Arsenal saves before. I've had questions put to me before, and it's a one for the wider FM audience as well, I suppose, really. Do you manage the team you support, and can you distance yourself from that? Because do you get too involved and too sort of like, oh, if it doesn't work, I can't believe that I'm the one that's ruined it? Or do you just leave it out there and let the AI ruin it and be like, I could fix that, I could totally fix that, but I'm not going to? Like,
I think right now, I don't know if Aaron feels about this or how he feels about it, but right now, I do not want to touch Arsenal because I cannot see a way that I do a better job than is actually happening in real life. Very, very recently, with this club, 100%, I'd be all over it.
Yeah.
When it was really making some terrible decisions under previous directors of football and managers, I was like, yeah, this is actually quite easy to fix. It's why Everton's so appealing too, because that's also demonstrably not going well. So, so generally speaking, yeah, I think I would, when times are good, I would generally avoid it. But right now, So right now is a good time. So I'm like, no, why would I? You know? Yeah. I like to fix things that are broken, and Arsenal's demonstrably not broken in real life at the moment.
Yeah, and that was showed how we're just obviously completely opposite. So I was going to say that the reason why I struggle being Arsenal is because I struggle. Like, I get too emotionally involved. So there'll be a youngster in real life. Let's say Eddie Nketiah. Like, I would never ever sell Eddie Nketiah in Football Manager, and I think that sort of stuff is my issue because that stops you from progressing and developing. But I just get so emotionally attached. I'm like, I can get the best out of this youngster. I know I can, and I think that's what happens. But so usually I wouldn't touch it, but then because Arsenal are now playing well, and you've seen all these rumours, Declan Rice, Lavia, and now I'm just like, I really want to play with this dream team on Football Manager.
Oh, that's,
so
that's true. That's true.
So right now I'm really itching for us to sign these people just so I can test it out on Football Manager, but I don't think I would like be invested and be able to be there for a certain amount of years. I'll probably be there for 2-3 years, and it'll get to that stage where I just remember that before, like players like Scolacci and stuff, is that they get such a bad rep in real life. Is that I want to be the one that gets them good average ratings for the whole season. So I'm not going to sell Scolacci, and it just gets a bit silly. My team doesn't get any better, and I get stressed.
Just a quick one, just while this episode's on. I hope you're enjoying it, by the way. And if you are enjoying it, please consider hitting that like button. That'd be much appreciated. It shows us who's enjoying the episodes. And also, while you're there, why not consider hitting the subscribe button as well? You'll find out exactly when all the new episodes drop, so you'll never miss a beat. That, of course, pushes us up through the YouTube algorithm. It gets us in front of more eyes. And, of course, the more the podcast grows, the better it's going to be. There's also a little space for a comment, so leave us a comment. We love reading them, and we will, of course, get back to you as well. And speaking about getting back, let's get back to the episode.
And then I quit.
I think that's potentially an issue, isn't it, as well? Because if you've got that vested interest in the club in real life, then there's going to be certain players you're going to have both a fondness for and an irrational anger towards just as a fan. And they won't have done anything to you on game per se, but you're going, I don't like that person in real life, so I'm going to have to sell them. And you're desperate to bring another player in to sort of replace them. And I guess, Steve, you've sort of, again, almost touched inadvertently on things that we're going to be talking about throughout the course of this episode. You're saying there about when times are bad, that's when you like to go in. You like to be the fixer. You like to start rebuilding from the bottom, going, right, okay, this is how, like what Aaron's doing now, we take these teams that are struggling a little bit and make them better. And that's the challenge aspect. And I think a lot of our FM players and FM audience will be sitting there, and we're probably split. And we will, of course, talk about the various different ways of playing the game, and there's no right or wrong way to do so. But I think potentially we're split into pools. So we've got people who play 3 or 4 seasons at the top level and win the Champions League, and that's probably it in about 3 or 4 seasons. You've got the kind of players who maybe do these rebuild models where they'll pick a team who's like a fallen giant or something, get them back to the top. And then you've got idiots like myself who spend 20 seasons taking clubs in the 3rd division of Northern Ireland and then just start ground hopping and stuff and like knocking on every club's door with my record of achievement going, can you hire me? I can do a job. Like, that is sort of, there's all those different levels, all of which are absolutely perfectly great and have fantastic narratives and stories attached to them. But that rebuilding moment, I'm really interested in that and sort of where we go from there.
Because also as well, that's I suppose the question would be then, actually, I wonder if it's helpful to try and convince, because the argument for playing the sort of, elite squad players sort of depends on the type of tactics you like to play, right? Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, there are certain tactics that work in the lower leagues of places and certain ones that you need higher quality caliber players to implement, right? So if you're a bit of a tactics nerd or whatnot, you want to, you can't, it's probably getting there, but it's less likely to have an inverted win back in League One, for example, that sort of thing. So I guess it sort of depends on what your lost my train of thought a bit here.
Okay, I'll put something to you. When you take over a club, okay, Aaron, I'll come to you first while Steve mulls this over, okay? When you take over a club, do you implement RDF ball from day one, okay? Yeah. Or do you look at what you've got in front of you and work accordingly?
Well, because I want the save to go on as long as possible, I do try and mix it up. So I remember early on in the save, I don't want to keep banging on about the save, but it might be nice to listen to because it might also interest you as well. So what we used to do at Everton is we wouldn't sign one player from Croatia. We'll at least try and get two. And then within the squad, I try and build this like safe space for people. Like everyone can speak the same or similar language. Everyone's the same age. Everyone's got the same personality. And hopefully we can grow together as a team and we can progress as a team. So I did that at Everton and I did that at Rennes. But then I thought, football involves things involving football. So I thought, okay, let's try a different way of how we recruit players. And then it started to get to, okay, you have to be at least 5'11" and weigh at least 80 kg. And that sort of stuff. And that is how we kind of just rebuild certain teams. So at Everton and Rennes, it was rebuilding by getting familiar players, similar age, similar personality, and all of that good stuff. And then later on to the save, it's like, okay, we're just going to build this physical monster team and we're just going to try and bully teams and progress. So earlier on, it was more RDF ball. I was able to do that sort of stuff because everyone on the same page. Now I'm finding ways that actually I'm just going to have to get the best out of the current players because we've got physical players, but not all of them are great technically. So it's more so how can we get the best out of these players, but also help the top players at the club. So it does change during the save. So I would say the first 10 years, it was all about RDF ball. And then the next 10 years is about actually, I want to be better as a manager. How could I get the best out of these players rather than making these players play the way that I want them to?
And so that's for a sort of a save that's going to give yourself the motivation for like that long a save, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's done. So I just remember when we done that at Everton, I just remember I can't wait to do this at another club. I couldn't wait. So it was almost like we need to get success now so I can leave and go to another club. And then at Rennes, it's almost that similar thing until I went to Bochum in the Bundesliga. That league, honestly, it's just so much stress. Everyone told me how fun it was. It was so much stress. And then I got to Portugal and it was all about physical play because for Portugal football at that time, a lot of the teams were technical. So I thought if everyone's technical, why not just do something different? And it was physical. And now we're here in Netherlands. And again, I'm just going to stick with the physical play. And then hopefully something else will trigger it. Maybe a move to South America then triggers a different method or different way of playing. And that's how I'm going to keep progressing in my save.
Okay. So that's really interesting. Again, little points that I'm picking up here for our listeners. You're picking teams. Your save particular is picking teams that have never won the top division or a European trophy. Yeah. So trying to do, and I often think that's probably the most difficult part of any FM save, is picking that club. We've all been in the situation. You've started a save, you go, this is the team I'm going to manage. You sit there, the first couple of hours, we've joked, it's a couple of hours, and then you press continue, and then like you're in there, you're Methods going through your squad, you're going through the finances, you're looking at everything you could possibly see, getting all this knowledge in, you're putting the training schedules together. And then you're thinking, I'm going to have to commit to this now because I've put a lot of time in.
Yeah.
There's times when you start saving, I'm not feeling it, and you restart it or you go on a different save. Like Steve, like how much? Because you like a one club save, right? You like a one club save. How much time do you spend thinking about that club before you click? That's the club I'm going to manage. Like when you've created producer Steve, your manager avatar, and you've given him Italian fluent speaking, clearly.
Yes.
And I go, I wonder which Italian club he's going to. I wonder which Italian club he's going to manage this week. Oh, it's the same one, right? Like, is there something? Do you sort of like construct it all in your head, going right? Yeah, You mentioned before about Florence. You've got this visual, this idealistic view of what it's going to be like. You've bought into the scenario in your head already. You're already living that life. So that's an easy club to pick. Is that how you do it?
I think so. I think the emotional side of it is the sort of like, and I don't know what actually, through all of this, through our various social media handles that Tony mentioned earlier in the show, do let us know what goes through your mind in respects of why you choose a save. What is it? For example, to answer your question, Tony, is it the emotional attachment? I remember getting a Fiorentina shirt when I was like 7 or 8. My mum had been to France on a trip. Batistuta on the back, like that era of Italy. Also as well,
Nintendo on the front.
That's it exactly. And although I'm not sure it's an official one, is what I will say.
Non-Tindo.
You touch it and you get a current. Non-Tindo.
don't think that's real, Steve.
But, don't do that to me. Don't. But yeah, so because you're right about that commitment thing. Like because you obviously you only get to see a little amount when you're going through the clubs in terms of the visible things like finances, squad, etc. available. So it is a little bit of a suck it and see when you go in and you realise exactly what is, because obviously that commitment stage before you press continue, for me anyway, isn't just going through deciding, right, keep, get rid, get rid, etc. Want to play this way, etc. It's also the staff, and there's a lot of work that goes into that. I hesitate to even do what you described in terms of those first 3 hours before committing to a club. I almost want to know. So actually, what I think might be helpful is if we don't talk about the geography of places, but more the specific journey. Go back to talking about the journey as well. So, Italy, I've got that specific association with, and actually Serie A at the moment, because the Premier League, IRL, and as reflected in Football Manager, is just increasingly this financial bear muff that just sucks in all the talent, which I personally think overwhelmingly is bad for the competitiveness of the wider European leagues. But what it has meant for Serie A, as an example, is it's become a lot more equal. Partly because, well, for various reasons when it comes to Juventus, which is where we should leave that conversation, as well as, AC Milan and Internazionale in terms of financial dominance is no longer there. So you've seen in IRL in Serie A lot of different champions. Past 4 years, I think it's been different title winners.
Yeah.
So it's a more equal league. Therefore, for a team like Fiorentina, and you could pick in Serie A, you could pick Napoli, Lazio, Torino, Sassuolo, Atalanta, teams like that, who in Football Manager you could absolutely take, and there feels like there's a path to the top. Whereas even with, obviously with Aaron winning the Premier League with Everton, how the hell you've done that, I don't know. But
it was, because the save wasn't set out to be like that. It was more so, let's just see what's happening at Everton. And then, so we finished 4th. And then in second season, I just remember being so fuming. And then we got to a game. I was like, wow, oh my God, we're in the Champions League quarter-final. So it was just like, what's going on? Semi-final, and it was like, we're in the final. So we actually won the Champions League before the Premier League. It was second season. It's the first season in the Champions League.
Wow.
We somehow
won the second season?
I genuinely don't know what's happened. Everyone in the I remember, because I was streaming and everyone's like, what are you so upset about? And I'm like, my team, they're effing crap. And then, language. It's like, my team, they're so crap. And then someone said, you're in the quarterfinal of the Champions League. And I'm like, huh?
But do you guys not feel, actually, Tony, as a sort of lower league connoisseur, what?
Lower league and connoisseur are definitely two words.
I was going to say, that's the right word,
yes,
isn't it? Yeah. What, when you look, what is the appeal of that? In terms of for someone, to sell me the idea of starting off in the National League, for example, with whoever.
See, so for me, I'm coming at it from the perspective, probably my age, I think has something to do with it, really, because I've played like FM, Champman, like all those all those versions from day one, right? So I've been doing this as long as they've been doing it, essentially. I've gone through every single challenge there's possibly been, and I don't watch Premier League football. I don't watch top flight football. And I guess even since having kids, I don't really watch a lot of football regardless. And when I do, well, I'm a bit like yourself. So I look at the Premier League, I'm like, I just don't feel any attachment to it anymore. I gave up on supporting a Premier League side. I went back to supporting my hometown club. I want to take the kids to local non-league. And I guess when I did the Blythe Spartans save, which was like 10 years ago now, and that then prompted the stand-up show, I fell in love with that one club save mentality. And it was literally from Vanarama North, and then I just kept going and ended up winning the Champions League with them. And I was like, oh my God, I've done it. I've finally done that style of save. And it opened my eyes to how to play the game differently. Now, the problem, I would love to be a one-club save man, but unfortunately, the game's got harder. and I can't spend months picking my team to be sacked within 3 weeks, right? I'm fed up with it now, Steve. I'm not doing it. So what I've decided to do is go, you know what? I'm going to go down to the lower divisions where there is no emotional attachment to those teams. I can just go unemployed, no badges, no experience. And for me, it's all about the journey. It's about the story. It's about creating the narratives in my head. Like to be fair, I could have the visuals turned off on the game. Okay, because in my head, I'm still old school. I've still got the text running across the bottom of the screen.
Mhm.
I'm still imagining it all in my head. Like, so I can be in those little non-league grounds where it's like one stand, and then 20 years later, I'm going, oh my God, we're in the Papa John's Trophy final. Like, I've made that happen. Like,
Yeah.
I'm essentially Carlo Ancelotti of the lower leagues. This is brilliant. Like, you know,
Is it also actually? I think this might be an important point for those listening and watching in respect of like how the star system in the game changes.
we've got a live show coming up on Monday, the 6th of November in Nottingham at the Canal House. It's part of the Nottingham Comedy Festival. If you're interested in coming to see the FM show live, seeing myself, seeing producer Steve, seeing RDF Tactics in person, then there's a ticket link in the description below. The tickets are priced at £5. Come and see the show. Come and hang out afterwards. We'll do a bit of a meet and greet. We'll do a bit of a chat. We'll talk FM. Bring your stories. Bring Matt Doherty if you can. But yeah, Monday the 6th of November, the Canal House in Nottingham, £5. Ticket link in the description below. Get your tickets. Come and hang out. It's going to be fantastic.
Because in my head, I think because obviously the star system averages out based on where you are, right? So you'll see 3 star. You'll have a sense of who the best player in your division is, right? So you'll still see 4 or 5 star players in respect of the National League, etc. So you'll have a sense of. It's just a question of in your mind adjusting to the scale, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, what I find as well, you're saying about trying to sell you the lower league dream. For me, and I know that some of our listeners will think this is the worst way to play the game of all. My favorite moment in FM is when all the real players are gone and when it's just new gens at that point, because then like that's when you're creating this new universe and everyone's universe is different on the game. Like I like seeing the big stars drop down to be coaches, you know, at some point, like on my current save, for example, doing the steel challenge, I've got Sergio Aguero as a coach, right?
That's
like
fun.
We're 18 seasons in, that's quite good. That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
But that's, you know, like I also like the fact that you take these non-league clubs that you've got no attachment to, and you can almost then get that appreciation for that team, and that like you start to look out for the results and stuff as people do in that FM attachment, and then all of a sudden you're sort of going, well, you know, yeah, maybe I have got a little bit of a soft spot for Bromsgrove Rovers now. You know, it's like there's no other place that would be that would even happen. I don't know if you could do that in other games or not, where you could get an attachment to that, maybe in other sports games, possibly, I suppose. But for me, I think this is because of how immersive the game can be and how much I probably allow myself to be immersed within that universe. That's where I'm going, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to start right at the bottom. I'm going to make it as realistic as possible, because I couldn't just walk into a top flight club. I couldn't. No one's going to hire me. Whereas there's a good chance I could almost blag an interview at a non-league club, right? I'm quite good in interviews. I could possibly get it done.
So as part of the God, can you imagine one day in like the FA Cup qualifying round, somehow makes it the third round, Tony Jameson there.
Steve, just let you know, we can't record this weekend because I'm doing the FA Trophy, I'm afraid. So,
yeah. Okay, so we run through things such as weight, which we'll come back into another save from the we've run through the tactical reasons for choosing a save. Try to find a team that might be well suited to your type of football in the same way that De Zerbi coming to Brighton, a Brighton team already coached by Potter, was a good fit IRL. We run through the sort of narrative, the journeyman element of it too, as well as various other reasons to sort of get a bit of inspiration in terms of a new save for people. I reckon now it's probably good to recommend places and leagues to the listeners to give them a bit of inspiration.
Vanarama, National League, or South, either.
Yeah, we're part of that as well, because you know, sort of. Do you quite enjoy the sort of like challenge of the physio, but we've got to cater for the fact he's got a real life job, so we've got I tell
you what, it's not even that, right? It's not even that. What I like, is and this is probably no surprise to some of our listeners and viewers, I like a relegation battle. Genuinely, I love a relegation battle. I love being involved the final couple of weeks of the season and toughing it out. I love that. Genuinely, that gives me more more joy than winning a title or something. I love the idea of beating the drop. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm the perennial underdog, Steve. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe so. Does it give you more joy versus the misery of losing so much, though?
Well, there is that as well. I guess I detach myself enough now to go, it is just a game, and I don't take it personally.
Okay.
I maybe used to back in the day.
Yeah.
I can't.
And
Yeah, I'm
again,
still
maybe
there. Yeah.
maybe that's I'm not massively competitive. So again, like, this is why I love the championship. Like, to watch as a fan, I love the championship because anyone can beat anyone. So that's really good. I'd recommend managing the championship. I'd also recommend managing in Indonesia because that was fantastic. That's the sort of place that I go. Very interesting. Very interesting.
What's the structure of that league? Like, what's the sort of, like, how many teams in it, and like, how do you?
So it's 12, I believe. I played it last year, so off the top of my head, I might be slightly wrong. So apologies to our Indonesian listeners, or anyone who's like a massive Indonesian football fan who's now correcting me, going, "There's more teams than that." I think it's 12 teams, right? You play each other 4 times. The loans, you can loan within the league, like Italy. There's no loan restriction. So because there's no money in the division, everyone just loans players to each other for no money. Now, physically, most players are averaging about sort of 5'7", 5'8", I think, and are fairly weak physically. So you're allowed 3 foreign players. Now, all the clubs in that league, those foreign players are Brazilian or Croatian, and that's the foreign players they bring in. Croatian, yeah. So they're in there. The technical abilities of your homegrown players kind of fluctuate. But when I did it in FM 22, remember the average height is 5'7", 5'8". I had a 17-year-old who was 6'7", and I was like, "Oh, here we go. This is gonna be
wow."
And it was brilliant. Like, just playing, like, all the teams, like you mentioned about Italy, all the teams are on a level. They're all pretty similar standards. So the games were close. You'd win some games, you'd lose some games. It just felt and played differently to whatever I'd experienced before. And then if you do somehow get into the Asian Champions League, then you get spanked like so hard off the Australian sides. It's just like, oh my God. It's a world difference. But it was something that's so alien to what I would normally play. I just loved it for how different it was. And I've seen a couple of people playing it recently, and we've had the conversation about it, and they're like, "Oh my God, Indonesia's so much fun, isn't it?" I'm like, it really is.
Yeah.
That is a good advert. I have to say. What about you, Aaron?
I had a similar feeling in South Africa, actually. I was Super Sport United. And it was just one of those things. It was like, look, if we don't do it now, we're never going to go to one of these countries and just have fun. And like Tony said, it really does feel like a totally different game. Things just feel different. Obviously, when you go in, like, even when you're watching it, the stadiums are literally, because I'm used to the stadiums in Europe and stuff, even the stadiums and stuff, sponsors, things just look different. It feels different. The speed is different. Like, you actually notice these things sort of. Kind of different if you're going from the Premier League to Serie A. You might not necessarily notice that difference, but going from the Premier League to South Africa, you really do notice the difference. There are some restrictions as well, but depending on who you are, that can make it more challenging, more fun for you as well. I think it's restriction when it comes to recruitment. If you want little restrictions, then you can go to the Bundesliga. I believe you can just loan, and loan, and then more loans. Fun for me, though, it's going to be the South Africa in FM23. My experience so far is South Africa, the Portuguese leagues, second and top, which I've managed in. And what's the one I'm currently in now? The Dutch League. The Dutch League. So that's my top 3 suggestions. The Dutch League, the Portuguese League, and the South African for fun.
Can I also give a shout out to the Canadian Premier League as well, by the way? Because that is, like, if you've not played in Canada, again, feels different, but feels quite familiar at the same time. It's really, really nice. Like, everyone's on pretty much a similar level.
Yeah.
Some of the football you see being played looks very different to European football, but with a bit of familiarity as well. Some of the goals that are scored are incredible, partly because players aren't really meant to do that, and they're just
Yeah,
swinging
yeah.
wildly, and it's like, you know, when you watch a non-league player like score from the halfway line, and you go, there's no way you meant to do that. Like, it's that sort of thing. Like a couple of absolute wild moments where, like, oh my god, I can't believe that's a goal of the season contender, and then the next player is like, keeper lets the ball through his legs. Like, those sorts of things happen,
Yes.
and it's just really fun. It's really fun, and it's not as complicated as an MLS, for example, but it's just it's just something really nice and different.
What, tactically speaking, what's the Canadian Premier League like? Is it sort of more physical? Like, what sort of formations are, you know, the main ones?
I'm 4-4-2 all the way, so it's probably not the person to ask.
Yeah. That's why you like
a lot of like sort of like five at the back as well. You can see, so 4-3-3 works quite nicely. I guess as with most leagues, really, if you've got a bit of pace and you've got a bit of power and you've got a little bit of creativity, you've got a chance, I guess.
Mm.
Wow.
What about yourself, Steve? What would you be recommending to our lovely listeners?
Lovely division in the west of Europe called Serie.
I'm listening. Yeah. Come on.
Genuinely, I think as well. If you sort of because I will be the first to admit I haven't jet setted in quite the same way that you guys have, but I think in respects of like, if you look at the Premier League and you go, sure, I could choose Arsenal, I could choose Man City, etc., etc., and it's so hard to. There's a certain point where, like, once you're into the top six, etc., getting the difference in positions, and you can have cup runs and stuff, maybe the Champions League, but if you in the Champions League, unless you are a Bayern or a Man City or a PSG or whoever, because PSG and FM obviously tend to win the Champions League because they've got the players on the paper and they don't have the other stuff as well reflected. It can feel a bit like, well, I've got these great players. I can buy good players too. I can play really technically interesting football, but what am I really fighting for? So the longer term journey is far more possible in a league. You know, you could, in the Premier League, unless you're Aaron and you get to do with Everton, like it's far harder. It was luck. Okay, it's far harder to get because in a way, the one that from decades ago now that I often think about is Nottingham Forest. You know, the sort of for those who, I wasn't alive when it happened. So for those, including myself, who weren't alive when it happened, it was in the 70s, was it? Nottingham Forest, obviously relevant to people today because they're back in the top division, but they were in the second division got promoted, and then the very next season, I think it was, won the title. I think that's right. And stories like that is the sort of thing would be impossible to happen today in the Premier League. And so the idea of that movement based on your ability, the coaching of the players you're talking about there, Tony, as well, is specifically if you want that mid-table to then push to the very top thing. And also one other benefit to it with Serie A is, as is reflected in real life, actually, the pace and nature of the game means that you can play by older players. So if you love getting in a grizzled veteran and getting a couple more good years out of them, then baby, Serie A is great for that.
I should also say as well, and I'm going to hate myself for saying this, you can manage in the Premier League. You can. It is physically possible. I'm aware, I've advocated Indonesia, I've advocated Canada, I've advocated Panorama. Like, there is fun to be had in the Premier League. Like, and if you like winning, then obviously the top clubs are there. And I would always recommend, when anyone asks me, I'm brand new to the game, what do you recommend to do? I always say the best thing to do is go to the Premier League, pick one of the top teams, learn the game that way. Learn what works, because at those sorts of clubs, you're more likely to win because you've got better players. You can take risks on formations. You can plug and play. Of course you can. There's obviously a lot of tactics already inbuilt in the game, which will give you loads of detailed instructions. Again, we'll mention this more on upcoming episodes for people who need that little bit of extra assistance, which is all in that game. Learn that way. That's the best way to learn, because the more chance of winning. And I know if you're brand new, you don't want to be like me. You don't want to be sat losing 6 months and not winning a game and going, oh, isn't this game great? Most people think that sounds rubbish. But so you want to come into the game brand new. You want to win. You want to learn how to do it. I reckon the Premier League with a top 6 side is probably the best place to do it because it's going to feel familiar. You're going to know who those players are. You're going to have a rough idea of how those formations and tactical systems work. Experiment that way and then start going, right, how do I want to play the game afterwards?
That's a really good bit of advice to end on, I think. And actually, as we often say too, this game should be fun.
It should be.
It should be.
So there is a little summary there, isn't it? If you're new and you're thinking of a new save, where to start, then my or our advice would be to go to a Premier League team, pick a team that you're familiar with the players. For me, it would be Arsenal. Of course, I kind of know what kind of formation would be best for Arsenal, where players would be automatically without even necessarily looking at their profile. Or if you're playing this game or you've been playing this game throughout the FM23 cycle, but you just want a new challenge, you haven't managed in a league like South Africa, in a league like Indonesia, then go over there, have a try. And I'm sure you're going to find some interesting things 100%. So the game for FM23 cycle is still alive. It's still fun. Get stuck in.
Absolutely, and let us know what you're doing as well, because there's no problems going to those nations and not enjoying it, is there, Aaron? Like you can go, you can tell us and go, right, Tony, Aaron, I tried that, it was nonsense, okay, and I didn't like it, okay, so I'm coming back over here. I'm coming back to Serie A. Steve was right after all. But yeah, do get in touch. Do get in touch with us to let us know how your journeys are, what your saves are, what your ideas are. Obviously, we've mentioned at the start of the show, we've got all the new social media handles. So we've got Twitter, we've got TikTok, we've got Facebook, Instagram. Obviously, leave a comment on the YouTube videos or drop us an email. Of course, you've still got our email address from before. It's thefmshowpod@gmail.com. That's thefmshowpod@gmail.com. And it is, of course, the FM Show Pod on all of our social medias. You can also get in touch with us direct. Aaron is at RDF Tactics. I am at Tony Jameson. Producer Steve does not want you to contact him. So send an email for Steve, I reckon, because he likes to filter stuff like that. So do that. I think that's been pretty good fun, hasn't it?
Smile.
Enjoyed it. It's been good, actually. I think it was a bit, it's sort of to ease people back in to this. It's been sort of more of a broad, discussion about stuff, and we'll narrow down into more specific parts of the game itself too in the future weeks. We just thought it would be a good start to sort of start from the beginning, actually, in terms of save selection. Yeah. So, but it was lovely.
Absolutely. And if there's any specific area of the game you need a bit of help with, or you want us to explore or explain a little bit more, then again, get in touch with us, let us know, and then we can do our digging and we can have those conversations and we can bring the podcast with those specific ideas to play. And then again, you're getting what you want. They'll help you learn the game and help you play the game better and enjoy it more. But I guess that's the end of it. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Take care. Stay safe. We'll see you soon.
Lovely. Great. That's the show, I think.